Now, what does Scripture tell us? Scripture tells us, of course, that they became what? Futile in their speculation. Professing to be wise, they became what? Futile in their speculation. What does futile mean? Obsolete. What else? Not productive. What else? Useless. Wasted. Silly. Goofy. Stupid. They became foolish, silly, goofy in their speculation. What is one of the goofiest, silliest notions out there? Evolution. And it's killing people. It kills people. If you don't believe me, you just come visit me where I live, just south of Denver. We'll drive about 20 minutes from my house, and we'll visit a site that rocked this nation. What was that site? Columbine High School. Now, hear me carefully. Those two shooters, they learned their lessons well. Hear me carefully. I'm not saying that some teacher told them to go out and shoot people. That would be absurd. However, from the day they entered the system until the day they pulled the trigger, they were trained to think what? That they are nothing more than what? Mistakes of nature. They are cosmic jokes. So why not live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse? For me, it's too late. But they followed their worldview. Ideas have what? Consequences. Good ideas have? Good consequences. Bad ideas have? Drastically bad consequences. Well, this even affects the area of what I call speculative science. Speculative science. But it is not a science issue. You must understand that. It is a worldview issue. This has nothing to do with evidence. How many of you have used evidence in talking with an evolutionist? Have you used evidence? Let me see your hands. How many of you have found it to be very, very fruitful? No hand. You know why? It doesn't matter how much evidence you give them, it's how they what? See it. It's their interpretation of the evidence. Creationists and evolutionists have access to the same set of facts. This piece of gum here on the floor, for example. There's no gum, just wanted to make you look. And one of them says it's very old, the other one says, no, it's very young, and they debate back and forth and forth and back, and finally someone walks over and he goes, no, it's fresh. It is not the evidence that is in question. It is your interpretation of the evidence. And you must understand that this whole concept of evolution is conveyed through the culture very, very well through films. Perhaps you remember this one. This was a very influential film in conveying a worldview based on evolution. You probably didn't realize I had such an illustrious film career. These are actual outtakes that ended up on the cutting room floor. What's the problem with Jurassic Park? The problem is that it is speculative science. Here's a question for you. We're talking about worldviews, and your worldview is your set of lenses through which you filter everything, that ideas have consequences. Another way of saying this is that our assumptions determine our conclusions. Our assumptions determine our conclusions. Okay, so here's what happens. I want you to listen carefully to what Dr. Grant has to say. Here we go.
It's a little distorted, but I don't think it's a computer.
Oh. Postmortem contraction of the posterior neck ligaments. Velociraptor?
Yeah, it's good shape, too. It's 5, 6 feet high, I'm guessing 9 feet long. Look at the extraordinary...
What'd you do?
He touched it. Dr. Grant's not mission compatible.
They got it in for me. And look at the half-moon-shaped bones on the wrists. No wonder these guys learn how to fly. No, seriously. All right. Well, maybe dinosaurs have more in common with present-day birds than they do with reptiles.
Look at the pubic bone, turned backward, just like a bird. Look at the vertebrae, full of air sacs and hollows, just like a bird.
And even the word raptor means bird of prey.
That doesn't look very scary. More like a 6-foot turkey.
Turkey, huh?
Oh, no.
Okay.
There
Try
we
to imagine
go.
yourself in the Cretaceous period. You get your first look at this 6-foot turkey as you enter a clearing. He moves like a bird, lightly bobbing his head. And you keep still because you think that maybe his visual acuity is based on movement, like T-Rex, and he'll lose you if you don't move. But no, not Velociraptor. You stare at him, and he just stares right back. And that's when the attack comes, not from the front, but from the side. From the other two raptors, you didn't even know were there. Because Velociraptor's a pack hunter, you see. He uses coordinated attack patterns, and he is out in force today. And he slashes at you with this 6-inch retractable claw, like a razor, on the middle toe. He doesn't bother to bite your jugular like a lion, say. No, no. He slashes at you here, or here.
Well.
Or maybe across the belly, spilling your intestines. The point is, you are alive when they start to eat you. So, you know, try to show a little respect.
Okay.
Okay. Try to show a little respect. Okay. How many facts and how many assumptions? How much science fiction? Well, let's find out. He starts off by saying, when they see this thing, he says, Velociraptor, and he gives the dimensions of it. Fact or fiction? Fact. Okay. Fact or assumption? It's fact. Okay. And he says, look at the half-moon-shaped bone in the wrist. No wonder these things learned how to fly. Well, does it have a half-moon-shaped bone in the wrist? Yes, that's a fact. You can put it under fact. What about, no wonder these things learned how to fly? Assumption. And everybody in the film titters and laughs. And he says, no, really. He said, perhaps dinosaurs had more in common with modern-day birds than they did with reptiles. Fact or assumption? Assumption. And then he goes on to say, he says, look, his pubic bone is turned backwards just like a bird. Fact or assumption? Fact. Well, there are bird-hipped and there are lizard-hipped dinosaurs, right? Okay, but a dinosaur is always what? Dinosaur, okay? So it's a fact that it's turned backwards, but my question is, so what? Okay? And it says, his bones are full of air sacs and hollows just like a bird. Fact or assumption? Fact. Okay. And then he goes on to say what? How they hunt because the little boy challenges him. Looks like a 6-foot turkey to me. And so Dr. Grant says, okay, imagine yourself in the Cretaceous period. You enter a clearing and you spot Velociraptor and you stand still because you think his visual acuity is based on movement, just like T-Rex. That's an assumption on top of an assumption on top of an assumption. They can't tell you how your dog sees, and he's going to tell you how Velociraptor saw based on T-Rex, for which we don't even have a eyeball. That's an assumption on top of an assumption on top of an assumption. And he says, he's lightly what? Bobbing his head just like a bird. Fact or assumption? Assumption. And then he says, you think by standing still, he won't do this. But no, because Velociraptor is a pack hunter. Assumption. And the attack doesn't come from the front, but from the side, from the two raptors you didn't even know that were there. Assumption. Because the assumption is he does what? He eats meat. Why? He has sharp teeth. Okay, now just because you have sharp teeth, does that necessarily mean you were designed to eat meat? Now, do I have sharp teeth? Yes. Just because I have sharp teeth, does that necessarily mean I was designed to eat meat? No, there's a huge bat in South America, has huge fangs and claws, and he uses these fangs and claws to rip and tear and shred the skin right off. Guava. Everybody go, ugh. Everybody do that with me. Ugh. And your question to me is, what's guava? And guava, of course, is fruit. He's nothing but a fruit bat because he eats nothing but, thus the name, fruit bat. Have I made my point here? Just because you have sharp teeth does not necessarily mean you were designed to eat meat. But he doesn't bother to bite your jugular like a lion does, okay? Fact or assumption? Okay. He slashes at you with this 6-inch retractable claw. The claw is fact because you have one of those, right? We can have one of those. We can find one. Now, what about the retractable part? I would say it's a safe assumption. I would even give it as fact because you can see the tendon attachment on the claw like you can on a cat's claw. So I wouldn't have a problem with that. But what's the problem? The idea that he does what? Slashes at you. Again, fruit bat. You see how many assumptions? He says, therefore, be sure that you show what? Respect. You see how many facts and how many assumptions, but they're all balled together and presented as what? Counterfeit reality. And we are immersed in a counterfeit reality. It is all around us. And again, we must realize, are people like Dr. Grant stupid? Everybody look at me and say, no. I'm serious, do that with me. No, they're not stupid. Are they crazy? Everybody look at me and say, well, don't say crazy. Are they crazy? Everybody look at me and say, no. They're neither unintelligent nor are they insane. You know what they are? They're blind. You must understand that Scripture tells us that much knowledge puffs up.